Okay, guys, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully, you are in the right room. This is the room for the Humanities Social Science admission stream. I hope that you're ready to do a little bit of hearing about your plans for your course enrollment. So my name is Jack. I'm going to be leading the session. I do want to just say really quickly that I'm hoping to hold questions till the very end of the presentation. I'll stop the recording at that point, and then we can have a bit of a dialogue. So I'm hoping to leave us a little bit of time to do that at the end. So just keep those questions in mind. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So for your plans, we've sort of got a rough idea that we want to be talking about, and this is for your overall degree, but just the key points of the first couple, right? Which is that in order to make a good decision about the courses you want to take, we need to think about the programs you want to take, and then you're going to look in those programs at the courses that you need to take for those programs. And then you're going to top up once you have those courses that you need, for sure that you need to get into the first year courses for the programs that you want. You can then top up the rest of your course load with electives. After your first year, you're going to get into your programs. You're going to study for 3 more years or 4 more years or however many, and you'll graduate. So that's the rough idea of what we're planning on talking about today. So the way that I want to do this is I want to first talk about the programs that you're planning on enrolling in for your studies. So the first really big thing is that this is the humanities social sciences admission category. There are so many options for you to study within this area. There are things that you can study that you probably don't even realize exist. And so it's really important that as you're sort of thinking about what it is you might want to study in your university career, that you actually get a good sense of what's out there and what's available. So you're really going to want to make sure that you're taking advantage of using the calendar to get a sense of all of those different departments that are existing in the university and all of those programs you might be studying. We're also going to be talking about setting aside those courses you need to get into those programs, different kinds of electives that you might take in order to fill out your the number of courses you're planning on taking. So this is a bit of a review, as Denise discussed earlier. The key thing is that for your degree, you need a valid combination of programs to earn a degree. Those combinations can be one specialist, two majors, or one major and two minors. You do add these programs after your first year, and so at this point in your studies, you don't have any. Your plan is to complete the courses that you need to get into your programs as of the beginning of your second year, or really at the end of your first year. This is the minimum combination. You can take up to 3 programs in total, of which only 2 can be majors or specialists. So you could theoretically be enrolled in as much as 2 specialists and a minor. I would not recommend that, but that is an option available to you, just so you know. So there are different kinds of programs. There's roughly 2 categories, but the second category is split into 2. So here I have an example of the Writing and Rhetoric minor that's hosted here at Innis College. This is an open enrollment program. Open enrollment means that as long as you have 4 credits, you're able to add this program. You don't need to take any prerequisite courses to get into this program at all. You could completely ignore this minor and then add it at the end of your first year on a whim. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. So course or programs that are open enrollment will list that in the enrollment requirements, and so you don't have to do any specific planning. In this case, for this program specifically, it doesn't list any first year courses, but there may be open enrollment programs you're interested in that do have first year courses they suggest you take in your first year. Obviously, you should do that, but you don't have to do that in order to get in. So that's the first category. The second category is limited enrollment programs. And so there's 2 kinds. This is an example of one of them, which is the economics major. Limited enrollment programs do have specific courses that you have to take in order to get in. So in this case, we're looking at economics, and we have Eco 101 and Eco 102. So you have to take both those courses, or, and that slash means in the calendar, or you could take Eco 105. In both cases, you have a minimum grade that you have to meet, the 63 for the Eco 101 and Eco 102 and the 80% for the Eco 105. For these limited enrollment programs, you need to meet that cutoff in order to be considered for the program. So if you were interested in economics major and you got, say, a 63 in Eco 101, but a 62 in Eco 102, economics would not admit you. You need to make sure that you have that minimum grade, but as long as you have it, they will admit you. There's no risk that they won't. There are, however, other kinds of limited enrollment programs called competitive. The language on this sort of is varies by department, but you will always see one of these lines as listed here in cinema studies for that variable minimum grade. This is a program that is similarly limited, which is to say you do need to take the courses that it lists in order to get in, and there will be some sort of grade cutoff expectation. In this case, for cinema studies, you can take a 105 or 201. You should take 105 in your first year. There's no reason to take 201 first. The expectation here is that you need to have at least a 70% in that course in order to be considered for admission. But the reason that this is a competitive limited enrollment program is that programs like this only admit a small number of students, or I shouldn't say small number, but a set number of students each year. And so there almost always is the case that there are more students applying for these programs than they actually have spots. So some students don't get in, and that minimum grade, the cutoff is typically a good deal higher than that to get into programs like this. It's often the case that you need at least 3 or 5 points above that minimum to be actually considered for the program. And in some cases, it's a lot higher than that. So most importantly, for these competitive limited enrollment programs that you might be interested in, you really need to make sure that you're getting excellent grades. And you also need to be aware of the fact that even if you do get those great grades, there's a risk you're not going to get in. And so backups is a smart plan. Okay, so those are roughly the three categories. There are additional things attached to these programs, one of them being focuses, or the key one being focuses. So there are a variety of programs, specifically majors and specialists, that exist that have focuses. Focuses are typically not required. Generally speaking, they are completely optional. There are a couple of exceptions where if you look at the academic calendar, the specialist will say you must take a focus, and it will list these. But the focuses are typically optional. They're just a collection of courses that you take within the program that are contributing to the program requirements. But if you take that collection, the focus is included. You can enroll in the focus and have that included in your transcript. And so it'll be clear to anybody looking at your transcript in the future that yes, for example, you took the focus and data analytics is the example I have here. So you have, yes, you took the economics major, but then you also specifically spent a lot of time in the area of data analytics. So some programs have these, some don't, usually completely optional to add them. The other option that you have is something called a certificate. Certificates are not attached to programs. They are not considered programs. You can have however many certificates that you want. They are considered additive. And so the courses that you're taking within the certificate would be considered an elective in this case. They're usually only about 2 credits, and they're also completely optional. So you don't have to take them. You can take them if you'd like, but you don't have to. A popular option is business fundamentals, which is a collection basically of all the business courses that students who are not Rotman Commerce students can take. And so that's a common option that students will enroll in. One other thing that I want to mention as part of this program enrollment thinking process is that you will see that some departments have streams of their programs that are associated with ASIP, the Arts and Science Internship Program. This program is something that it's probably for the best that you take some time after to look at the link and explore the ASIP's website. But the core thing that ASIP is it's a program that if you do join a program that has an ASIP stream and you join ASIP, you spend 2 of your years, usually your second year and your third year, taking some supplementary courses that are not for credit, but do things like help you prepare your resume, help you think about networking, help you brush yourself up for the professional world. And then usually what you'll do is after your third year, you'll take a year off to do an internship, and then you'll come back and finish your studies after that year. So usually students that are in the ASIP take 5 years, but you do get a year of work out of it. It's a pretty good program. Students generally are very, very satisfied with it, but the key thing is whether or not the programs that that you want to take have an ASIP stream. So this is worth looking into. Just keep an eye out for it when you're doing your research. Okay, so that's the basics of programs. So hopefully, I know that's a lot of information. We will have some time to talk about questions and stuff at the end. But with that established, let's go right into courses. So now that we've sort of talked about your plan for you're going to be looking at the programs you want to do, I just want to make a clear distinction between this isn't something that is like explicitly said anywhere in the calendar. It's not like a formal delineation, but for our purposes, it's important to know the difference between when you're taking courses for your program, what I'll call program courses, and when you're taking courses that are not for your program necessarily, but are going to be contributing to your overall degree requirements, those 20 credits that you need, your breadth requirements, the 13 credits, the 200 level, those would be electives. So courses that are not contributing directly to your programs, but are contributing to your degree, those would be considered electives. I do want to mention credit, no credit. We'll talk about credit, no credit a little later in the session, but a major point of distinction here is that you can credit, no credit electives. You cannot credit, no credit program courses. So we're going to go into the timetable builder. There was some conversation about this in the earlier session. This is the really big tool that I want to show you and help you understand. It's going to help you plan your courses really effectively and make sure that you're not putting yourself in any conflicts. But before we do that, I just want to go over what you can expect from a course listing. So every course that you're going to be enrolling in here at U of T is going to have sections. All courses are going to have lecture sections, LEC sections. This is the section that the prof is in front of and does the instructing. So every single course you're going to take will have a lecture section. You must always have a lecture section. And I should clarify that if courses have lectures, tutorials, and practicals, you must have one of each. So every single course is going to have a lecture. Most courses will have a tutorial, which is usually a TA leading the tutorial. Sometimes it's the prof. And this is rather than the instructing that happens in the lecture, this is where you're sort of discussing the content. This is where you're going to be talking about the book you read, the readings you did. So that's what tutorials are. Practicals are where you sort of do the doing stuff. You're not going to see a ton of these in the context of humanities and social sciences. Usually this is more of like a science, a lab, these kinds of things. But if a course does have a practical, you are, of course, expected to also have a practical. Okay, so have that in mind as we're thinking about the courses we're going to be looking at going forward. Now, I also want to talk about just a couple of options for the courses that you might be looking at for your first year. This was mentioned by the principal, Charlie Keel. The first year foundations are an excellent option for first year students. So first year foundation courses are small sized courses that really focus on a specific area of interest. The sort of idea with the first year foundation seminars is that they're supposed to sort of simulate the environment of those like third year, fourth year, upper year courses where you're talking about you're sort of like at the end of your degree and you're having more of a direct relationship with your fellow students and with the prof. They're really, really cool courses. It's a unique experience. And I think the coolest thing about them is that they are so like narrowly focused that if there's a seminar that is about something that you really like, you're almost definitely going to have a great time with the course. So I do recommend you look at options. There is a full list of them. The slides will be available after this presentation, so don't worry about grabbing these links right now. You can go back and find them later. More specifically, there are also one programs, which are also first year foundation courses. And I realize I didn't make this clear. First year foundation courses are only specifically available for first year students. So only first year students can enroll in them. All the students in these classes will be fellow first year students. So for one programs, as opposed to the seminars, the ones are organized into sort of specific areas and themes of interest that are tied to each college. There's also Monk one. The idea with these courses, rather than them being sort of a seminar style, is they're meant to be more experiential. So Innis one, specifically our courses here at Innis, are the storytelling and society. You're going to end up spending some time going around the city. You're going to end up spending some time doing a little bit of work in writing, a little bit of time, a little bit of work in cinema studies. And these courses also expose you to all of the resources available at the college. So again, sort of similar to the seminars, they're pretty specific, they're pretty narrow, and they're pretty small. So if it is the case that the area of interest of these ones is something that you like, you're probably going to have a great time enrolling in these courses. It's important to point out that some of the ones do have application deadlines that have already passed. That'll be the Trend one, the Monk one, the Vic one. Innis and many of the, I think all of the other ones that you just enroll in them like any other course. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so with that established, we're going to be going to the timetable builder momentarily, but I just want to talk a little bit about delivery mode and a couple of other pieces. Actually, we'll start here. So there are courses that are available online. There are also courses that are available in a hybrid model. These are the key terms that you're going to be seeing when you're looking at these course listings about how the courses are delivered. So obviously, if the course is listed as in person, everything, all of the components of the course are going to be in person. The lectures, the tutorials, everything are going to be expected to be in class. For hybrid courses, usually what that means is that one component of the course, often the lecture is going to be online, and then another component of the course, often the tutorial, is offered in person. And so you'll be expected to interact with those elements in the way that they are presented. For online courses, there's synchronous and asynchronous courses. Synchronous obviously means that you're expected to attend at a specific time, very much like what's happening right now. You have to be here at this hour to experience this. And then asynchronous is going to be they make the recordings available afterwards. You can pace yourself in the course. Personally, from an advising perspective, I do advise that first year students do their best to avoid asynchronous courses, only because at this stage, you don't know what to expect from a university course load. You don't know how much you can get behind. Having that level of discretion in the work that you're doing is definitely very convenient, but can be very risky if you do not know what to expect from yourself from university yet. So I would advise avoiding asynchronous if you can in your first year. Okay, other things to look at are going to be the course's description, the prerequisites, the co-requisites, the exclusions. So prerequisites, in this case, it should be relatively clear, are the things you're expected to have done before you take a course. So an example that we looked at earlier, Eco 101 and Eco 102. Eco 102 is the second course in that sequence, and it has Eco 101 as a prerequisite. You have to take Eco 101 first. There are other courses that are called co-requisites. In the context of the course has a co-req, you either have to take the course listed as a co-req before, very much like a prereq, or you can take the two courses at the same time. So that'll come up a little bit sometimes. It'll be more of a thing in your second year, so don't worry about it too much for right now, but that's what a co-req is. Exclusions are courses that if you have already taken the exclusion for a course you're looking at, you cannot take that course for credit. That's probably not going to come up a whole lot in your first year, but we can discuss any specific cases. You'd probably just want to email us and have a conversation with us if that comes up. There is also enrollment controls and timetable instructions, and we're going to look at those a little bit more specifically when we actually do look at the timetable builder, which at long last we're at. So I'm going to close the presentation. I'm going to bring us to the timetable builder real quick. So let's go take a look. Hopefully this is the screen we're seeing. Can somebody just shout out, we're looking at the timetable builder, we can see this?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So this is going to be what you're going to see when you look at the timetable builder. This is the tool that I really want you to get familiar with and is you're going to be using for your course planning. When you open it, it's going to look exactly like this. So the first thing that we need to do, obviously, is set this thing up so we're looking for the right courses. Right now, it's looking at the summer session because students in the summer can still enroll in summer courses. So the first thing we want to do is set it to the right session, fall, winter. We also want to make sure that we have the division set correctly. We are the Faculty of Arts and Science, and so we want to make sure that we're set to that. I do want to point out that theoretically, there's situations where you might be taking courses in, say, UTM or UTSC. That could happen. I would, again, avoid that in your first year. And for our purposes for now, let's just look at the Faculty of Arts and Science. Does anybody have a sort of specific area of study that they were hoping to look at a course for, just so I can use that to look something up? You could
Cinema
just
studies?
Wicked. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at some of 5. There's a variety of things you can do to set up the filters here, but usually you can see a pull down. So as soon as you put in CIN, you can see all the courses that are listed for cinema studies. We can be a little bit more specific and say, and we only want to look at the first year courses. So I put in the 1. You can see 105, which we're going to look at, as well as a couple of first year foundation seminar courses. So let's go ahead and look at SIN 105. So this is the Introduction to Film Study. This is a course that you're almost certainly going to be taking if you're interested in cinema studies. So going back to what we were discussing before, you can see, first of all, there's lecture sections and there are tutorial sections, which means that we know for sure you need one of each. So there's going to be one section of each that you have to enroll in. It has specific timetable instructions, which thankfully, oh, it even has a practical. Look at that. I didn't even think of, I didn't realize that. That's perfect. Yeah, because the practical in this case is actually watching movies. So you do need a practical for this. So perfect. Um, so that's the timetable instructions have told us that we need one of each of these. That's perfect. We also want to make sure that we're looking at more course information because this is going to do the extra piece of giving us all of the other things that we need to look at. So the description of the course, I mean, it's Intro to Film Studies. You can probably guess what the course description is going to say. We can see that it doesn't have any prerequisites. We can see that it doesn't have any co-requisites. We can see that it does have some exclusions, but we're not going to worry about these too much because you haven't taken any courses yet. We are in pretty good shape with the information that we have. We can see that it is a BR1 course. So talking about those breadth requirements that you have as a larger degree requirement, this is a course that contributes to that BR1. So with that all figured out, we know that we want to take this course. And so we can go ahead and use the timetable builder to plot it out onto a theoretical timetable, which is why this system is so useful. So you can just add it to a timetable. And as you can see, if you pull open this tab, it starts plotting this out on your Monday to Friday for you, which is super, super, super handy. This is a Y course, so it's running both terms, the first term and the second term. And so we can see that this course is appearing in the fall and the winter terms. There we go, there's our lecture section. We know we also need a tutorial, so we can slap that in. There we go, it's added to both terms. And we know we also need a practical, so we'll add that in. So there you go, you've got your first course in the timetable builder. I do want to be clear that the timetable builder is a planning tool. So this doesn't automatically load into your enrollment cart. This doesn't automatically load into your Acorn. The key thing with this is that you're using this to map out the courses, make sure there's no conflicts, and you're going to go and you're going to load your enrollment cart with this stuff afterwards. What's another course area that we want to look at? I can just pick something.
American Studies.
Sure, yeah, okay. American Studies. I think that's what is it? AMA maybe? You know what? I don't actually know. So we're going to go over to the academic calendar. We're going to look at our program areas and we're going to find American Studies courses because I don't actually know what they're listed as. Oh, AMS. Okay. So let's go find AMS 100. Global capitalism. So this is an H1F course. It's obviously for St. George. We know all that stuff already. Here again is our description. Once again, no prereqs, no co-reqs, no exclusions. This is a BR3, not a BR1. Great. And in this case, there are no specific timetable instructions. So we just look at the listing. We can see that there's tutorials. We can see that there's lectures. So we need one of each. Let's go ahead and add the lecture. And then I'm hoping, no, they're all at the same time. Okay, so then we add a tutorial. And so as you can see, this is a great way to load up your timetable, because it's going to visualize it for you. It's going to show you where your courses are. It's going to load it. It's a highly visual tool that's going to make it very clear if you have heavy days, light days, if you're trying to find like make it so you specifically don't have courses in the morning or you specifically don't have courses on Monday. It makes it a lot easier to do that. So I highly recommend that you start off your course planning by building out a timetable builder plan. Okay. Um, I think we'll leave this demonstration here for now. We can absolutely come back to this after I'm done going through my slides. So don't worry, we can come back to it if we'd like to, but I'm going to go back to my slides for now. So let's go back. Okay. So hopefully you've gotten some sense of you need to figure out what programs you want to take. You're then going to load in the courses. So we were looking, obviously somebody's interested in cinema studies. So we looked at adding Cin 105. Obviously somebody's interested in American studies. So we looked at AMS 100. You're going to find those courses. You're going to plan to add those to your first year. You're going to use those courses to get into your programs, and you're going to graduate. And you're going to add some electives in the middle of that as you go. So hopefully that all makes sense. Now, let's imagine you've done this process where you've added those courses, you've found the electives you want to take, you've planned out the number of courses you're planning on taking. It's probably going to be 5 courses a term. It doesn't have to be that if you don't want it to be, but whatever it is, you settle on it. Now that you've done that and you've confirmed on Timetable Builder that you don't have any conflicts, you don't have any other issues, you should go ahead and prepare your enrollment cart, which is on Acorn. I believe it's open at this point already, so you maybe are familiar with this, you maybe aren't, but you should use it. Get your enrollment cart ready. As of the 1st of July, you're going to be able to log into Acorn and see specifically the time that you're going to be able to enroll in your courses. And that time is going to be on the 16th of July because you are first year students. So you might log in on the 1st and it'll say something like your enrollment time is 10:15 a.m. on July 16th. You want to know that, and you want to know that as soon as you can know it. Okay, so on that big day, when we get to the 16th, you really want to make sure that you're logging in the very minute that you're allowed to log in. As Donald has made pretty clear, you are in a first year class of thousands of students, and so you are competing for spots with thousands of others. And so every minute that you have to get ahead and make sure that you're getting into your courses is a minute you want to take advantage of. It is important to point out that this is the time of year that Acorn is under its most strain. I know it lags a little bit. Sometimes it's worse than others. I do want to point out that generally speaking, strategically, don't refresh. Don't worry, don't do that, because if you do refresh a bunch, you're actually going to slow yourself down. You're going to slow your latency down. There's a small risk that the system is going to start thinking that you're a bot. So just be patient with it. Move through it carefully. You really should prepare your enrollment cart because it makes that enrollment process a lot faster for you. There is a risk that you're going to end up in some wait lists that we're going to talk about in a minute. And then you might encounter some e-enrollment controls. And that reminds me, we need to go back and look at enrollment controls because I totally glazed over that and we need to discuss that. So just we're going to go back to the timetable builder real quick here. This course doesn't have any enrollment controls, AMS 100, and neither does Cin 105. I really want to look at a course that makes this clear. It's a 200 level course, but it's a handy reference for what I want to show the room. So this is a 200 level economics course. You won't be taking this until your second year. But the key thing is it has an enrollment control, this P right here. So whenever you see a P, what that means is that this course does have a priority enrollment period. During the priority enrollment period, only the students that have the controls that are listed here in this screen are able to add the course. That doesn't mean that students without the priority can't add the course, but they do have to wait until the general enrollment period starts. Usually, because of our admission stream and because of the areas of interest we have, most of the courses you're going to want to enroll in your first year have no real enrollment controls. A handful of courses you might want to take, however, would have priority enrollment controls for students that are in other admission streams. So, like for example, if you wanted to take some chemistry or biology courses, you're considering taking some life science stuff in your studies, you're going to encounter that there's priority enrollment for life science admission stream students. You won't be able to add those courses until the general enrollment period. In this case, with Eco 202, or whichever one we're looking at, 202, you can't actually add this course unless you have one of these categories, right? So this course wants you to have a program in economics, or it wants you to be a commerce student, is basically what this is saying. So this is going to be most important for your second year, and this is why your programs are going to be really, really crucial, figuring out which programs you want to take, because your programs are going to be tied to most of the priorities you get later in your degree. Another enrollment control you might encounter is R. R means that you will never be able to enroll in the course that's listed. An example of this would be any of the RSM courses, which are the Ramen Commerce courses. So let's just crack this open real quick. You'll see this R1 here, which is basically just saying that only Ramen Commerce students can enroll in this course. You're never going to get the chance to add these. The other example, which was on my slide, which will bring me back here real quick, is an E enrollment control. E enrollment control means that the course enrollment is controlled by the department. You will not really see this until typically your fourth year of study, but there's a handful of exceptions. Like, for example, if you are in, I think the Vic 1 does this for sure, all of the Vic 1 courses are E enrollment controls. So you plan on, if you do have any of these courses, make sure that you leave space in your enrollment for those e-enrollment control courses, because you won't be able to add them yourselves. You're going to have to wait for the department to add them. Okay, so I mentioned wait lists in an earlier slide. What this could happen. Let's say you want to take Eco 101, you want to get in economics, or you want to get into criminology or ethics, society, and law, or any of these, and they all use economics courses. So you want to get into Eco 101. You try to enroll in the course, but unfortunately it's full. What happens at this point is that you join a wait list. So the wait lists are sequential. Students start piling. So as of the course being full, the first person to add the wait list is first, next person is second, next person is third, and so on. Somebody drops the course, that first person gets in, next person that drops, second person gets in, and so on. Waitlisted courses do count against your total load of courses. So during the priority enrollment period, you can have up to 5 courses per term. During the general enrollment, you can have 6. We'll revisit this a little bit later. But for that 5 courses per term, for example, the wait list does count. And so it's kind of important to think a little bit about, if you do encounter a course that you want that has a wait list, whether or not it's worth trying to wait and getting in, because there's a risk you won't. As a general rule, the sort of the rule of thumb that we provide students is you should look at the capacity of the course, and you should look at your rank in the wait list. If you're within 10% of the capacity on that first day of enrollment, your odds of getting in are okay, like decent. Certainly earlier in that 10% would be better. There's still a decent chance even if you're at the 10% threshold, but it's never going to be guaranteed. And so you have to be a little bit thoughtful about if you want to keep that course or if you want to swap to a backup you've planned. So the priority enrollment period, where that sort of P enrollment control is enforced, ends as of the 22nd. 23rd of July, there's no course enrollment, and then the 24th of July, the general enrollment period begins. That's when you can add courses. Even if they have P enrollment controls that you don't have, you can add any courses you want. You can also enroll in up to 6 courses at that point. Before, you could only enroll in 5 courses. At this point, you'll be able to add 6. This is a good time if you would like to revisit those wait lists that you weren't so sure you should keep. You could always add a wait list as a 6th course, and if you don't ultimately get into that course, it's not a big deal. If you do get into the waitlisted course, you can just drop the backup that you took. So that's a good time for that sort of planning. I do want to point out really quickly that you can continue to make changes to your F and Y courses. Obviously, the S term deadline is way, way later, all the way up until the 21st of September, which is roughly 2 weeks after classes begin. So don't feel like the courses that you're choosing right now are set in stone. You can always move them around if you need to. And then you have all the way up. The first drop deadline is the 17th of November to drop F courses. So a popular strategy, for example, is if there are two courses that you're not like you kind of want to take both and you're not sure which one you want, you can just add them both because you've got 6 slots. So even if you're planning on taking 5 courses, you can afford that extra course, and you have all the way up until the 17th of November to make a decision on which one you want to keep. And when you drop a course by that 17th of November deadline, it vanishes from your transcript. It's as if you never took the course. Okay, so a couple of good to knows just to round this up before we go into the question period. Um, you can, when after you've enrolled in a lecture section, you can, if you want to make changes to the tutorial sections or the practical sections of a course, you can do that freely from Acorn. You don't have to do anything to your lecture section. However, if you want to change the lecture section of a course, you have to drop it first, and then you have to add the new one. And the reason that that's really important to point out is that what might happen is that maybe there's a specific section of a course that you want to take because that's the one that works for your schedule. But when you try to enroll, only one that has a conflict, for example, is the one that's available, and so you add that instead. The only way that you're going to be able to switch to your preferred section is by dropping the one you're in and going to get the new one. And if that one that you want has a wait list, you're going to end up at the back of that wait list. So specifically when you're looking at the lecture sections of courses, you really want to make sure that you're making thoughtful decisions about which lecture section you're picking, because it's really quite difficult in the scrum of the enrollment period to move your lecture section around without risking wait lists. You might notice if there's a course that has a prereq that you want to take and you add it, hoping that it's not going to be a problem, that Acorn will let you add courses that you don't have the prereqs for. Ultimately, departments are going to go around and check that students actually have the prereqs for the courses that they add. And if you don't have those prereqs, they'll kick you out of the course, and they will probably kick you out of the course without any warning. So don't do it. Similarly, Acorn will not block you from adding yourself to timing conflicts. You really don't want to add timing conflicts. Timing conflicts are a very bad idea. I think if you do find yourself in a situation that you want to take 2 courses in conflict, rather than ramble on about it now, you should just have a conversation with us. You should email us and talk to us about why you need to do it. You do have the option to credit, no credit. As long as those courses are electives and not program courses, you can designate a course credit, no credit. Have 2 credits worth of credit, no credit courses, and it allows you to make it so the course has no impact on your CGPA. We won't go into the specifics about that right now. You can always ask me about it later. And then lastly, there's late withdrawals, which allow you to drop courses even after that drop deadline, but before exams begin. That's a sort of problem management option for you that we don't really need to worry about right now, but just be aware that it exists. There is also another tool that you're going to hear about a lot called Degree Explorer. It's a great tool. We rely on it a lot, but it's not super helpful in your first year because you're not in any programs yet. So focus mostly on the timetable builder and focus mostly on your enrollment card for this enrollment period. Okay, and lastly, this was a lot of information. There's probably some stuff that I didn't cover sufficiently. There's probably some stuff that we can go over again. And ultimately, the key thing that I want to say here is that it's your responsibility to realize these things that you may or may not have perfect understanding of at this point. You're now being treated as a legal adult. You're now being treated as a fully functioning, individual person at the university. And so the university expects you to have a complete responsibility of all publicly available information, all information pertaining to the courses you want to take, to your program, everything that you can find on a website. The university is expecting you to read it. It's your responsibility to know if you have the prereqs for courses, co-reqs. It's your responsibility to know if you have the exclusions and conflicts. You are also expected to know all of the enrollment dates, all the enrollment deadlines, all the rules that pertain to how your course enrollment works. And lastly, as I was gesturing to, it's your responsibility to know when you're overwhelmed and you need help. So make sure that if you do feel that way, you reach out to us, because sometimes we have some mechanisms that help us realize when students are struggling and to reach out to them proactively. But really, the best way we can help you is if you realize something is going on, you reach out first. So just make sure you do that if you're having any issues. This last slide is just listing some key dates and the link to find where those key dates are. You don't need to worry about this too much. You can find this in the slides when they are published, and then obviously it's publicly available, but I'll leave it here just for a second if anybody wants to take a picture of it or whatever. So that is all the slides that I wanted to go over.